Hi, I'm Jim Paterson. I'm a principal of Discovery Group and lucky enough to be an advisor to Kodiak Copper. We thought it'd be a great time to get together and interview the leadership team. So we have Claudia Tornquist with me here in Vancouver. We're piping in Chris Taylor from Calgary, or near Calgary. And we'll just get started with, you actually closed an upsized financing and announced that at the end of June, $15 million. Then you expanded the size of the drill program to over 16,000 meters. So there's a lot going on, a lot to cover. So we figured we'd talk about the current program that you're executing right now. Chris can walk through the target pipeline. And then you announced a transaction form, a spinout called Kodiak Copper. We wanted to get an update on that. And then of course, all investors are looking for catalysts or upcoming catalysts. So that's kind of the framework of the interview today. So we'll start with you, Claudia. Financed, drilling, maybe just describe the program to us.
Yes, we've upsized the program. We started out with 6,500 meters, added another 10. So now 16,500 meters, big program. I've just been on site last week and all is going very well. 2 drills humming. We started out at the Ketchen zone. That's a zone that we hadn't previously drilled, one of the deposits in our resource. And have now put the second drill in the southern part of the property. Both are running well, all is progressing to plan. And yeah, the plan for this year is to drill most, if not all, of the deposits that make up our main resource, with the aim to significantly expand them.
You just let the viewers know what that resource is.
We're currently at a resource of 400, if you combine the indicated inferred, 440 million tons. The grade for the indicated is 0.39% copper equivalent, for the inferred 0.32. And that was at the time well received when we came out last year in December. I think the market looked at it as already large. And the grades very much in line with what you see in other mines in the region or in successful projects. So good starting point, but it's a maiden resource and it will grow. And that's really what this year is about.
So the focus is growing that. And then Chris, maybe outside of the resource area, you have a whole bunch of targets. Maybe Chris, you can walk through some of those.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. Nice to talk to you again. There's some really obvious targets that could expand that maiden resource. Some of them are located in the immediate vicinity of the zones that we've already defined. Like there's some very obvious tie-ons to the south zone, the west zone, the Ketchen zone in particular. If you look at the distribution of copper in soils, gold in soil results, other surface rock sample results, there's probably only about, my guess is between 50% and 60% of that copper in soil target is included in the resource area. So there's some very obvious near resource locations that could add to that. But across the project, this is a very target rich environment. There's probably about another, I think, 36 targets that we've disclosed to the market. And so we have systematically expanded the MPD property to include adjacent known mineralized zones, showings, other things. And some of these are very compelling targets as well. So if everybody's been following the history of Kodiak, you know that we have a very good track record of following up on discoveries that are associated with copper in soils, and especially like coincident copper in soils with chargeability targets. And there's some of these that are very obvious ones that we're going to be following up with in the 2026 program, both at the sort of eastern or southern MPD block, the area where we originally had staked the claims and acquired the claims, and also on the stuff from the Ketchen area, the MPD Northwest. So if we'd like to talk about some of those specific targets, I know some of the ones that we're going to be looking at in the near term include the Dillard East target, which is on the main or southern MPD block. That has coincident copper in soils and a coincident chargeability, which would be very similar to the known zones that we know about. There's also the Star target in that area. So these are short-term targets for exploration that we know we can do some drilling work in the relatively near term. Over the longer term, on the Ketchen area, we would expect that we're going to be permitted for drilling in some of these other areas by Q4. And that means that we'll have a whole plethora of other targets to go after, and including some very nice grading copper samples and copper and gold samples that we sampled in the 2025 program.
So you're fully funded, you're drilling, you've got over 30 targets, you've got like Dillard and the Star. But what does success look like on the actual expansion drilling or the drilling of the resource, let's say?
Well, success, what we're working towards is a material increase in our resource. And obviously, if we can add to that the discovery of one or several additional zones, mineralized zones, that would be fantastic. And I think we have a very good chance to be able to do so. And so, yeah, we're working towards a larger resource. And I think for Kodiak, really the opportunity, the challenge and opportunity is to demonstrate that with our resource, we can get to where some of our more advanced peers are. The number of explorers, porphyry explorers who have already larger resources or are already moved towards or into PEA stage in North America. So similar to what we're doing, but more advanced, maybe 1 or 2 years ahead of where we are now. And that's guys like North Isle, Faraday, or Cisco. And they traded valuations that are multiple times higher than us. And for us, the opportunity is to demonstrate that we can get to where those guys are. And I'm confident we will be able to do so and then close the valuation gap to the more advanced peers for our shareholders.
Excellent. So expanding own resources and converting some of those targets that Chris was talking about. Awesome. Okay, Chris, maybe you can talk. Recently, there was an announcement that Kodiak had spun out K Copper or into a separate entity. Maybe can you talk about that?
Yeah, sure, Jim. The K Copper prospect here, it's going to be very interesting. Forming a new company, it's always an exciting process. It's a bit like having a child in a way, without any of the painful hospital bits. But this is an interesting opportunity that arose through some discussions that Claudia and I had with people at Teck Resources. And we walked into their office last year, and we were specifically asking, do you have any assets in your portfolio that you really, really like your exploration teams, if they could prioritize where they're going to be doing work on their own, but that they're not going to have the ability to do that work? What are the projects that you like the best? And what are they? And do you have any interest in doing some sort of agreement on them? And so K Copper emerges out of a union, really, of an asset that we've had parked in Kodiak for a long time, which is called the Mojave Project, which is located in Arizona, and another project that Teck had called Copper Hill, which was one of their primary exploration assets. Both of these are copper targets. In the case of the Mojave project, you're looking at copper moly. In the case of the Copper Hill project, you're looking at copper, gold, silver, basically. And these are assets which are similar in the sense that there's encouraging early stage drill results, and there's big potential discoveries, or the potential for big discoveries on these projects. So early stage drilling, some very exciting conceptual targets, and good early results. And so putting these two assets together, it's a U.S. focus. It's an Arizona focus. That's one of the jurisdictions that U.S. investors, U.S. companies are very, very interested in proceeding with. And it's something that I think, it gives investors in K Copper. Kodiak is going to probably be on the order of somewhere in the vicinity of about a 25% shareholder of K Copper after this transaction, after the dust settles. And so it's going to give investors in K Copper, it's going to give Kodiak sort of not one step removed as a shareholder. It's going to give us a lot of exposure to some very exciting discovery potential in a jurisdiction that the market and us as geologists are very, very happy with.
Excellent. And I've been involved with a number of spinouts, and I think a key ingredient in success would be that there's an incentivized leadership team. So maybe you could talk about Adam, because his leadership will be actually pretty instrumental.
Yeah, well, we've found a great CEO for K Copper, Adam Schatzker, who Chris actually originally brought in and knows from his times at Great Bear, where Adam, whose background is in capital markets, he's a geologist with capital markets background. He got Great Bear right as an analyst, and so yeah, Chris has known him for quite a while and recommended Adam, and he's fantastic. His background very well placed to make this company a success, and we're just in the process of putting the board together and have some really good candidates. So yeah, I think Kodiak Copper will be placed very well to hit the ground running. It will be funded with around $5 million, have 2 prospective projects drill ready, and we'll be able to drill right away. And we're aiming to close the transaction in the 3rd quarter. So likely later in the year, first drilling, and then we can look forward to some exciting results from the new company.
Awesome. And talking about results, what are the, other than the Kodiak Copper, I mean, Chris has talked about targets and you talked about resource expansion, you're funded, you're drilling. What should investors expect for the next 6 months?
Well, we'll have lots of drill results coming. We started drilling in May, so the first batch of results will come quite soon. And then throughout the second half of the year, lots of drill results. And we have then guided that in the 1st quarter of the next year, we will come out with the resource update. So all the results from this year's program will go to a new resource estimate that should be materially larger than what we have now.
Fabulous. So finishing off, like what excites you, Chris, about MPD and Kodiak's future?
MPD is a project. Again, I looked at it now. It's several years ago, and I remember the first times that I was walking around with one of the prospectors that was actually selling us the project. And there's targets all over the place. We're in now a bit of a sweet spot where the fact is, like, we've got a very significant resource which is coming together nicely. We know that that resource is going to be expanded just systematically, over the course of this drill program, for instance. And then with all these other targets that are there, like, there doesn't seem to be a shortage of mineralized material on that project. There are zones all over the place. So it looks to me like a lot of the other significant alkalic porphyry camps that I've worked in British Columbia previously, these things tend to manifest as clusters of porphyry deposits that are located along like major, ancient structural controls, for instance, that are emplacing all these porphyry magmas. I would expect that not only will we see ongoing expansion of the resources we have, but I think there remains a very strong possibility of new discoveries based on the data that we currently have.
Awesome. So the company's funded, drilling, a bright future ahead, and we encourage everybody to stay in touch with Claudia, Nancy Curry, and or Chris, and get updates as the news flows this year. So Claudia, how can people keep in touch and just follow along with the story?
Well, you can reach us on ir@kodiakcoppercorp.com. Social media, website, of course, or give us a call anytime.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.